Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want to share with you a pattern of thinking that I developed because of my learning disability, actually. Now, this pattern of thinking honestly helps me to be more confident and positive about myself and about other people everywhere. So that's why I'm really excited to share these thoughts with you. We live in a time and a place that stresses excellence. I'm talking about the 21st century, I'm talking about America, I'm talking about college. Excellence seems to be the expectation now. And if you're anything like me, this can cause feelings of critical thoughts towards yourself and towards other people. Is it possible, though, to use the momentum of critical thoughts to fuel a more positive way of thinking? That's what I hope to present to you this evening. Now, this idea was perfectly presented by Cam, actually, in his Campside Fireside last week. Actually, in the story of him and his brother wrestling. And actually, to refresh your memories on this, I scoured Facebook and I found a photo of Cam and his brother wrestling. So I didn't ask his permission beforehand, but I got it. So here we are. So if you remember, as the story goes, Cameron, yeah, you were a little bit bigger back then, actually. So, Cameron was bigger and older and stronger than his brother. However, his brother was able to win because he was able to redirect Cameron's strength against him, like so. So this is kind of the idea that we're driving at today. So I want to walk you a little bit through my personal story. In elementary school, despite my very best effort, I fell hopelessly behind in school. Often days it felt a little bit like this. You may cry now if you feel so moved. And my parents and I, we found out it was because I was dyslexic. So the way that I process information is fundamentally different in a categorical way. Now this had a few effects on me. I felt different, I felt misunderstood, but most of all, I felt broken. I felt like there's a huge sign on my forehead that said defect, item recall on my brain. Have you ever felt like this in any regard? I would assume that most of us have. I felt like all my friends were up there on a peak, being cool, reading their Harry Potter books and stuff, and I was just behind. And I was pretty hopeless at this point in life, honestly. I didn't think I was going to amount to much. But then something really interesting happened. I went to a place called the Carroll School, which is actually near Walden Pond in Massachusetts. And this school was entirely for kids only like me. They were all 100% dyslexic. So they were like me, they were broken. But something really caught me off guard. They were some of the brightest, sharpest, most intelligent, creative, and hilarious kids I have ever been around. And I thought, wow, even though all of these kids are broken, they've overcome that and have been able to accomplish great things. And then in the late 90s and early 2000s, a lot of research was coming out about learning disabilities in general, and especially dyslexia. And they found some really interesting things. What they found is associated with this learning disability are several advantages, two of which I'd like to highlight to you right now. Yale University, in a study they did, in their write-up, they said, dyslexics usually excel at problem solving, reasoning, seeing the big picture, and thinking out of the box. Reading may have a few glitches, while other parts having to do with creative thinking, empathy, and analysis work especially well. Scientific America said, dyslexia is common among business entrepreneurs, and other sites will also say engineers, because there are people who tend to think differently and see the big picture in thinking creatively about businesses. And then as I researched this, the picture clicked for me. And I thought back to my days in the Carroll School, and I realized it wasn't in spite of our disability that these kids were exceptional. It was because we were broken that we were exceptional, in fact. It was because of this unique way that our brains are wired that we were actually able to be so successful. Now this sentiment becomes very clear when you see a brief list of famous people who have verifiably struggled with dyslexia. It's not a TED Talk without a vague scientific diagram, so I had to throw it in there. So the typical reader's brain, the red highlighted region regions are the parts of the brain that are working when they are reading. The information is being processed in these regions. Now you notice in the dyslexic brain, only one of those regions is firing. Now, much like if there was a marathoner who had one leg, that one leg would be very, very strong. This is the reason those strengths come from dyslexia. That one small part of the brain is working many, many times over to compensate. And it happens to be the region of the brain where conscious thought, analysis work, all those things come from. And so, obviously this was very inspiring for me, but ultimately this talk is not about me and my journey. This is about all of you. Because what I want to submit to you is that all of our brains are very different. There's no such thing as a neurotypical brain. We all have advantages and disadvantages. And we may be tempted to see the flaws in the way that our brains are wired. We may see the flaws more easily than we see the advantages. But we need to remember, we need to contextualize, realize that what we call advantages and disadvantages have meaning only in the context of the task that needs to be performed. Now, the way I saw this in my life is originally I thought dyslexia, I associated it with negativity. I couldn't keep up with my classmates. I thought I was dumb. I didn't think I would amount to much. But as I learned this new pattern of thinking, I was able to reframe it and see the positives of it. I saw that by this very same nature, I was able to solve problems in ways that other people wouldn't have been able to as easily. I was able to derive insight by seeing the big picture, and I soon came to realize that it was because of this I was going to be able to be successful. And so like I've been saying, I feel this applies to all of us. So with Brooke's permission, I wanted to share a little bit about her story and some things that she confided in me. Brooke, also known as Brookie Cookie, she shared with me how she doesn't particularly like her anxious disposition, as she calls it. These are associated with difficulty relaxing, just mind always training, and she's talked about how it's not necessarily her favorite thing about her. But I can honest to goodness say that I don't see it this way at all. When I see Brooke, I see it this way. I see that she is always anxiously engaged in the good work, and that she passionately and earnestly cares about all those around her, and she has tons of fun energy. And all of this because of that same anxious disposition, just reframed in a different context. My last example. And actually, I wanted to say that it is exactly this disposition that makes her a valuable and wonderful member of our community and into the communities in the future that she'll be in. I cannot share the name for this one, but a close personal friend I have. Did I mention I'm tone deaf too? Apparently I look valley tonight. She struggled with an eating disorder for years, and it stemmed from a compulsive type behavior pattern. So this compulsive behavior, it made all these negative things happen in her life, but in recent years she's been doing very well, actually. And she told to me that it's this very same compulsive behavior that she was able to redirect into pursuing a great lifestyle, to becoming fiercely determined to accomplish goals. And I've seen in her that she is always improving and using that very same compulsive behavior to accomplish her great work. So here's my challenge to all of you. I want you to retrain the way you think about yourself and other people. And any time that you're tempted to see a character flaw or a personality flaw or a shortcoming in yourself or others, I want you to pause and recontextualize and think, in what situation is this a strength? So next time you see shy Sally in the grocery store and you think, oh my gosh, she saw me, I'm going to have to talk to her now. I don't like talking to her because she's a little bit shy and it's just awkward. I want you to think to yourself, wait, how is this an advantage to her? Maybe she's deeply thoughtful or privately hilarious. Or maybe there's a vast number of situations that you're missing out on because you're seeing a shortcoming instead of a strength. So I know that as we do this, you'll be able to redirect the negative energy in your life and see a world of opportunity and possibility before you. Thank you.